about the text to justify my answers. So we're gonna read a book. We're gonna answer some questions along the way and do a worksheet at the very end. So the book we have no monkeys, no chocolate. So first, can anyone predict what this book is gonna be based on?
Monkeys in the jungle eating chocolate.
Anybody else have a prediction? Not being able to eat chocolate. Anybody else? Go to the back table. Go ahead.
Banned from eating.
They're banned from eating. So we have a lot of predictions that they can't eat it or they don't like eating it. Anybody else? How about from this table? Any prediction? No. Okay, we'll do this front table. Go ahead.
The humans are going to be eating chocolate in the jungle, and then the monkeys are going to attack them.
Okay.
Oh my god.
It's a prediction that works. On the island.
That the monkey's going to try to eat cocoa beans, which is not supposed to.
We have a lot of predictions about what this little monkey, or what monkeys contribute to the forest. Okay, so we'll start out by reading it. And this book has something really unique about it. It has some little bookworms down here on the bottom. See these little bookworms?
Yeah.
So they will talk throughout the book. They're captioned. I hear you guys have learned about captions lately. Okay. Exactly. Yep. So the other unique thing about this book is that the text is in paragraphs. Okay.
You could just turn off the
So it's in paragraphs. So this top right over here is gonna be the subject of the paragraph, and this is gonna be what we're gonna learn based on that subject. Okay? Alright, so I'm gonna start reading this, and we will answer questions along the way. I'm gonna pass those out to the tables, and they are numbered 1 through 6. And as we go along, we're going to start with question 1 and progress to question number. Alright guys. Let's start with reading this book, and then we'll answer questions throughout. Alright, so chocolate chip cookies, chocolate ice cream, moist fudgy brownies. What makes these desserts so delicious? Chocolate, of course, but you can't make chocolate without. Okay, and these little bookworms down here says so it says this book is making me hungry. I need a snack. The other bookworm says, hey, you'll spoil your dinner. He replies back, mind your own bookworm business. They're pretty funny throughout the book. Alright, so we're going to answer question number 1. What do you think we can't make chocolate without?
Without chocolate.
without chocolate. What's an ingredient, main ingredient in chocolate? Go ahead. Milk. Milk is a chocolate ingredient, but it can be made without milk. How about you? Cocoa beans. You are very correct on that. So this book is going to be about what, probably? Cocoa beans. All right. So the next page. Cocoa beans are seeds of cocoa trees. Cocoa trees grow naturally in the tropical rainforests of Central and South America. Today, farmers grow them in other tropical areas too. To make chocolate, workers spread cocoa beans with rakes and dry them in the sun. Then they roast them in a giant oven. Later, the machines smash the beans into a thick paste and squeeze out the liquid to make cocoa powder. It gets mixed with a variety of ingredients to make different kinds of chocolate. Picture is of them raking those cocoa beans. Okay. So the little bookworm, should we see what they're gonna say? Okay. Alright, so this little bookworm and this little bookworm. Okay. So there is a bunch of beans in this chocolate bar. That's ridiculous. It's true. I read about it in another book. You're such a bookworm. It takes one to know one. Not quite yet, almost. Okay, so cocoa beans can't develop without cocoa pods. Cocoa pods are the fruit of the cocoa tree. They look like small, lumpy footballs growing on the tree's trunks and main branches. Inside each pod is white, gooey pulp, surrounded by 30 to 40 cocoa beans, just enough for one candy bar. Isn't that crazy, you guys? Alright, so here's the picture. There's the little pod. That is what's inside of a cocoa bean. Yeah, that's what's in a cocoa bean. Alright, question 2. How many cocoa beans are in a cocoa pod? 30 to 40. And how many chocolate bars does one cocoa pod make? 1. You're right. You're right. It's a little football-shaped cocoa bean. Alright, so let's see what the little bookworms have to say. Okay, so one little bookworm says to the other, is a cocoa pod like an iPod? Do you think he's right?
No.
So the other bookworm says, very funny, it's more like a pea pod.
Oh,
Do you know what a pea pod is?
yeah, it's a porta potty.
It is. It's a little bean. Okay. Let's go on to the next page. Cocoa pods can't form without cocoa flowers. There's flowers for a cocoa tree? Let's see. When pollen from one cocoa flower lands on another cocoa flower, a tiny tube opens up inside the blossom. Pollen travels down the tube. As soon as the material inside the pollen combines with material deep inside the flower, a new cocoa and pod begins to grow with seeds inside. Pretty interesting stuff, you guys. Flower. Alright, see what little bookworms have to say? Alright, so this little bookworm says that's what happens inside a flower? Plants are amazing. You can say that again. Plants are amazing. I know I can't get it tuned in enough. It's too small. Tiny writing. Alright. So another thing that contributes are things called midges. MIDGES. So it says before a female midge can lay her eggs, the little insect needs a hearty meal of rich, nutritious cocoa pollen. To find food, she crawls deep inside a cocoa blossom. As the midge, which is what? A bug. It's an insect. As the midge climbs out, pollen sticks to her body. And when she lands on another cocoa flower, some of the pollen falls off and lands inside the blossom. So, the little bookworms. This one, down here, says, so that's how cocoa flowers get the pollen they need to make pods and seeds. This little bookworm says, no midges, no chocolate. Yep, no midges, no chocolate. Hey, is there an echo in here? He repeated exactly what he said. Alright, so we're going to have a question under this page. Okay. Cocoa flowers can't bloom without cocoa leaves. As the cocoa leaves soak up the sunlight, they make sugar. The sugar travels through the veins in each leaf to the tree's branches. Then sugary sap flows through the trunk to the rest of the tree. That's how a tree gets the energy it needs to live and grow and make flowers. Alright. Picture. There's a cocoa leaf. So we are question number 3. What happens when cocoa tree leaves soak up sunlight? Yeah. But what else happens? What happens first? What travels through the veins in each leaf? Alright, it's sugar. Sugar travels through the veins in each leaf to the tree's branches. What else does a leaf need to grow? Any plant. Alright, so it needs sunlight in order to grow, in order for that sugar to travel through the veins. Yep, you're right, and water. Alright, so little bookworms down here. I thought this book was supposed to be about monkeys. Well, we aren't done yet. They must be coming still. Think the monkeys are still on the way?
Yeah.
Alright. Alright, so we need cocoa flowers can't bloom without cocoa leaves and a maggot. Maggots. Maggots are an insect. So we have another insect that we need in order to have cocoa leaves. Yep. Yep, exactly. And without those, we wouldn't have cocoa. Kind of weird, huh? Yeah. Alright. As soon as leafcutter ants spot tender new leaves on a cocoa tree, the little insects race to reach them. While the hard-working ants slice up the leaves and carry the pieces back to their nest, female coffin flies land on the ants and lay eggs inside their heads. When the eggs hatch, tiny maggots wiggle out of and eats the ants' brains. Who knew? all this stuff went into chocolate, huh?
Oh my. It's
Let's see what the little bookworms have to say. This one has about the same opinion as the rest of us. He says, brain-eating maggots? That's disgusting. Little bookworm says, maybe, but I'm glad their moms lay eggs inside the ants that actually destroy the cocoa leaves. That's actually a good point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I've never.
So this other worm says, no coffin flies, no chocolate. Almost. Alright, we have another question after this page. So, cocoa leaves can't survive without cocoa stems. A cocoa tree's trunk is a thick central stem made of wood. Its branches are smaller woody stems. The tree's smallest stems connects leaves to branches. All these stems transport minerals and water from the tree's roots to its leaves. The leaves need the minerals to grow. They use the water to make sugary food for the whole tree. Alright, so the next question we have is number 4. What do cocoa leaves need to grow? Wait, nope, that's not. What happens when, what do cocoa leaves need to grow? Go ahead.
I was gonna say
Sun and water. There's one thing that's mentioned on this page, not mentioned on another. Does anybody remember? Minerals, yes. So they transport minerals and waters from the tree's roots to its leaves. The leaves need minerals to grow. Alright, little bookworms. Alright, this little bookworm is getting pretty anxious. Monkeys, I want monkeys. This little bookworm, shh, I told you not to eat that chocolate bar. It's making you hyper. Does chocolate make anybody else hyper in here? Yeah. Alright. So, we not only need cocoa stems, we need lizards. Let's see what the lizards do. So, aphids are little insects that jab holes in a cocoa tree's soft green stem and suck up the sugary juices inside. A hungry animal is nearby. The little lizard skitters along the tree's branches, eating aphids and other insects. So lizards are a good thing to have. Because they go along and eat all the insects.
Thank you, lizards.
Thank you, lizards, for the chocolate. Alright, little bookworms. Alright, so this little bookworm, who's the pretty anxious bookworm. Wow, no lizards, no chocolate? That's right, they eat insects that harm the cocoa stems. Maybe we should send them a thank you note. Just like you guys. Pretty thankful for those lizards. Alright, cocoa stems can't grow without cocoa roots. A cocoa tree's roots suck up water from the soil. They also absorb minerals such as calcium and iron. Those are the minerals we talked about earlier. The stems and the rest of the tree need these materials to live and grow. Roots also hold the cocoa tree in place. There's all of the roots.
Whoa!
Are there roots on other trees?
Yeah. They go all the way around.
They do. They go all the way into the ground so that they have a really good support system. Alright, little bookworms. Now we're really getting to the root of things. He's a jokester. Quit monkeying around. I'm trying to concentrate.
With what? With the book.
Yeah. He wants to learn, and the other bookworm just wants to get to the monkeys.
Yeah.
Alright, so cocoa stems can't grow without cocoa roots and fungi. Fungi is fungus. Alright, fungi live in rainforest soil. As they grow, tiny root-like threads, called hyphae, spread out in every direction. When hyphae bump into a dead plant or animal, they release chemicals that break down. Then they absorb the rotting bits and digest the minerals the fungus needs to grow and to live. The extra minerals pass out of the hyphae into the soil, where they can be absorbed by the roots of cocoa trees. So there's the little fungi, right there, right there. And there's the roots of the tree again.
Now they're going sideways. Yeah.
Yeah, they might be. That might be how they move. I don't know. Alright, little worms. This little guy first says, it's a good thing there's a fungus among us. What did he just do?
He changed the word.
He did, and he rhymed it, right? Okay. Fungus among us. You bet fungi supply the minerals that cocoa leaves need to grow. No fungi, no chocolate. He has chocolate on his mind a lot.
I just want chocolate.
Cocoa pods, flowers, leaves, stems, and roots can't grow without cocoa beans. If a cocoa bean lands in just the right place, a tiny root pushes down into the soil. Then a slender shoot stretches up toward the sky. As time passes, the little seedling grows into a tree. When it's about 5 years old, the cocoa tree begins producing flowers and fruit. Some cocoa trees live up to 60 years. It's pretty long. Pretty long for a tree. Alright, what does little bookworm say? Alright, so this little bookworm says, wait a minute, I thought cocoa beans were used to make chocolate. Not all of them. There are still plenty of new left to grow new trees. What a treat! Get it? Treat.
Oh.
There you go. That's so funny, I forgot to laugh. Alright, next question. How are cocoa trees planted? Go ahead. You forgot.
I know.
Go ahead.
When cocoa bean falls off the tree and lands in the ground,
You're right. Alright, bonus question. How long do cocoa trees live for?
I know. About a year.
About 60 years. There are 6 questions. We're almost towards the end of the book. We're almost to the monkeys, hopefully, right? It's the title of the book. Alright, let's see. Finally have some monkeys on. Finally, and monkeys. Okay, let's see how monkeys contribute. Monkeys yank pods off cocoa trees, gnaw holes in the fruit, and pull out all the sticky insides. As the monkey travels through the rainforest, they suck on the lemony lime pulp, and they spit out the beans. Cocoa pods never fall off cocoa trees. If monkeys and a few other animals don't scour scatter the cocoa beans on the ground, new cocoa trees wouldn't grow. So monkeys pick all of the fruits for us, and they don't like the cocoa seeds, so they just spit them back out. Do you think they clean the beans?
Yeah.
Do you think they clean the beans the monkeys spat out? Yes. I think we're all safe from monkey spit. Alright, so the last two little bookworms. At last, the monkeys know that crazy title makes sense. That's right, no monkeys, no chocolate. The seeds monkeys spit out end up growing into new trees as well. Okay, last question. What do monkeys do to cocoa pods? Go ahead.
They get inside the cocoa bean and they spit out
In the cocoa pod.
nothing.
Yeah. Go ahead in the back. They don't eat them. They spit them out. Monkeys don't like cocoa beans. Isn't that weird? All of us like cocoa beans for chocolate, right?
I want chocolate now.
You want chocolate now? Alright. So those are all the questions. And that is the end of the book.
Now we're gonna do a word picture.
Alright. So we're gonna do one final question. Is this book fiction or nonfiction? This book is nonfiction, but they made it a little bit of fun when they added the little bookworms, right? Kind of kept us interested in what was going on.
I think it's a little bit fiction because
Yeah, worms can't talk, so you're right. There's a tiny bit of fiction in it. Okay, so I am going to pass out organizers for you guys, little graphic organizers.
what are we doing?
You can just hand them off to one person and I'll collect them. So I am going to pass these out in just a second to you all. This is what it looks like. So I'm going to need your name and the date. And then I am going to put this book back up on the dot cam so that you can write down the title, the author, there's two of them, and the illustrator. So we're gonna do 3 things I learned. That's gonna be 3 facts. Any facts from the book. You're gonna have 2 questions to write down. What else do you want to know about cocoa beans or chocolate that wasn't in the book? Finally, we are gonna do 1 picture about the book. It can be anything. Anything that you learned from the book, go ahead and draw a picture of it. Any questions on any of that? There's not a back to it.
Yeah.
If you guys want to make a bigger picture, you can do it on the back versus the front. Do you guys want to? So, can they color the pictures? Is there time?
Well, we have about 12 minutes before we head to specials. So before we even get to the picture piece, we gotta work on the writing. So if there's time, yes. If not, no.
Any other questions? The bookworms on the front cover? That's a crazy title. What does it mean? I suspect some sort of monkey business. What's your question? Oh, are there 2 arms on the back cover? Thank you. That was a great book. Yeah, let's read it again. Okay, but let's take a break first. I could use a snack. What do you think he wants?
Chocolate.
There's a bunch of different kinds of monkeys.
There was no monkeys or no lizards. Is today the 18th?
Yes, it is.